Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Respected brothers and sisters in Islam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to a new episode on anti-Muslim hate, in brackets, Islamophobia, through MuslimDo. This is episode 6 in Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your deeds, your ta'at, your qiyam, and your siyam. We started in the last episode talking about where do we find Islamophobia, and we talked about public spaces, parks, streets, we talked about shopping centers, and the last episode actually was dedicated to anti-Muslim hate in schools. Very important episode. If you didn't watch it, make sure you go back and watch it. Today we're going to talk about anti-Muslim hate at work. Very interesting, important topic to many Muslim workers. Whether you work at a company, you work in a small business, whatever it is, it's very important for you to hear this. Now, when I was looking at the Canadian Encyclopedia, the page that's talking about Muslim or anti-Muslim hate, they wrote the following. They said, violent verbal and physical attacks are not the only ways that Islamophobia is expressed. Discrimination in hiring is another one of the ways that Muslims experience its effects. Researcher Jean-Philippe of University of Laval conducted a study on this subject, which showed that in Quebec, job applicants whose family name suggests an Arab background are up to two times less likely to be hired. So applicants with Arab last name, which shows that they're Arab background, they're up to 2 times less likely to be hired. So if someone is less likely to be hired because of, lacking a certain experience, if you have an Arab name, it's double the chance for you to be dismissed and not hired. It's real. A lot of people talked about it, and I remember for many years people would say, is it my name? And others would say, no, it's impossible. They can't be doing this. They can't just look at your name and say a Muslim name or Arab name or Muhammad and they won't hire you. No, this is never going to happen. People lived in denial for so long. But unfortunately, it's real. It's real. And here's a research in Quebec. We know a lot of people that suffered from anti-Muslim hate at that stage of hiring. You send your resume like everybody else, people, and the reviewer will not even look at your credentials. He will stop at the name and then so long. This is one form of anti-Muslim hate at the stage of hiring. And then we have at the stage of promotion. We've also heard a lot of stories about people that never got promoted because of it. So they have a manager who has something against them, against their religion, and they end up not getting promoted. So it does exist. It does exist. And unfortunately, there are new, I think there's a new law or something about resumes where you can hide your name or something. Should have searched it more. My apologies, but there's something that's being done about this. I'm sure if you talk to people that are experts in writing resumes, they will have all these information. But it does exist. It does exist at work. It could prevent people from being promoted or taking special assignments. We've heard that happening to Muslim officers at the Secret Intelligence Services, for example. Sister Huda, I believe her name was. She was part of the Secret Intelligence Service, and she was subjected to serious discrimination that eventually drove her out of that place. She had to leave the service She had to resign. Even Minister Ahmed Hussein, Muslim from Somali background, he spoke in his TEDx speech, and he said how he was subjected to severe anti-Muslim hate and discrimination because of his skin color, African background, and religion. And many people were subjected to that. So it could get your life complicated at work. Like Sister Huda, she was pressured, she was accused, and we know more Muslim citizens working for official government services, security services, that were pressured because they're Muslims, and they ended up resigning. So that's in the public sphere. Employment in a private sector could be a little better, but we said the hiring process is the same problem because of the last name. And the promotion has been a problem. I've seen it in my own eyes. In my own eyes. And I worked for huge corporates. I've seen a discussion between top management saying, we're not going to give it to this guy because he's of such and such background. I've heard it. So it is there. We cannot deny it. We cannot say it doesn't exist. We need to be careful. How do we deal with it? Inshallah, we're going to talk about it when we talk about solutions. However, right now it's the idea of acknowledging, understanding, accepting, realizing, believing that it exists. There's an employment discrimination, both in the public sector and in the private sector. And the second part we're going to talk about today is government services. Now, I'm not talking about employment in government services. I'm talking about the government services towards Muslims. And this was clearly acknowledged and admitted by the Prime Minister at the National Summit to Combat Islamophobia in summer of 2021. And we got three main organizations, if you will, that have serious anti-Muslim hate inflicted upon the Muslim community. And the first one is the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, especially when dealing with registered charities or non-profit organizations that want to apply for charity status. Charity status is extremely important for any community to build its structure, its strength as a community. For example, our masajid, they collect donations. And this is how they survive, and this is how they provide services. And if they have charitable status, the money donated could be deducted from tax, which is an excellent source of funding for community programs and community strength and community growth. And every community in Canada enjoy this service. Unfortunately, for the past many, many years, CRA has been unfair when dealing with Muslim organizations. Unfair at the time, required to grant charitable status if they do, or evaluating Muslim organizations. They've been very unfair. Even revoking status from Muslim organizations has been easier than any other organizations. We've complained so many times to the government. The government ordered an investigation. I was personally interviewed, and unfortunately, it went nowhere. They just stopped the investigation and that's it. Nothing happened. This is very serious. Very serious for our structure as a community. Very serious for our strength, our prosperity as a community. This is no joke. But unfortunately, another form of systemic discrimination and anti-Muslim hate expressed by the CRA, and the Prime Minister promised to deal with it, but we haven't seen any progress yet. Security services. A lot of us have been suffering from, for example, on the borders and the airports, by the secret services, the Secret Intelligence Service, CCs, by the police. I have many stories of anti-Muslim hate by police personnel. And I've reported this to Halton Police, to Peel Police. We've seen, I have a lot of scary stories to tell. A group of young Muslims driving a vehicle and getting into an accident. And one of the drivers wasn't Muslim, one of their friends. He was from a certain background. And the cop that investigated the accident ended up taking the side of that person because apparently there was some family ties, and he wanted to put the entire responsibility on the Muslim teenager. And other stories of anti-Muslim hate committed by police officers, by CC's officers, security, border security, Canadian border security personnel. It exists. Nobody can deny it. So we need to be careful. We need to be smart, especially if we sense it. We have to report. This is what makes it grow. Is we never report it. We have to report it immediately. Don't let it go by easily. And the last one is party policies and party politics and elections. We've seen how some parties will use anti-Muslim hate as part of their campaign, for God's sake, so they can get voters from that side. So they induce anti-Muslim hate and utilize it for political scores, which is sick, but we've seen it happening. And it definitely needs to stop. So the government has to take serious steps serious measures, because we're talking about government agencies here. We're talking about government services. We're talking about parties that should be heavily regulated by the government. They need to stop anti-Muslim hate in government agencies. But unfortunately, the government's still not doing what it's supposed to do. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect all of us and protect our children. Jazakumullah khair for watching. See you in the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.